Hey everybody, it's Lex and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about what I've learned after living in Germany for 2 years as a Canadian. I need a sip of coffee. I have a list on my computer of things that I've noticed are different living here in Germany, things that I like and also things that I dislike and miss about Canada. So let's get right on into it. One of the first things I noticed when I came to Germany was this, and this is basically milk that can stay for a long time. So this I bought a few weeks ago and its expiry date is on the 25th of March. I don't know, it says here that it's like it's heated really high. I guess that gets out all the bacteria and then it can last for a long time. Something really similar that was really weird to me when I first came here was that eggs actually don't have to go in the fridge, and that's because the eggs here in Germany are they're not sprayed like they are in Canada or in America or probably in some other countries. They're actually leaving that protective layer on the eggs, and then that way they can stay out without going bad. And so I think if you put the eggs in the fridge, they last for longer, but you can also just keep them open. Like in the grocery store, they're just open. Another thing you have to know about Germany is that everything is closed on a Sunday. On Sundays, you will not find a grocery store, you will not find shopping, you will not find an office. Everything will just be closed. Restaurants will likely still be open, and then they take off like the Monday or the Tuesday in lieu of having to work on the Sunday. When I first moved here, I hated it because I was used to relaxing on Saturday after the long work week and then doing something on Sunday, like going shopping or going out to the city or something like that. And now I've gotten more into the habit of doing those kind of things on a Saturday and then having Sunday just completely as a resting day. Also, all the stores close by 8 o'clock on every day, so you have to make sure that you get your shopping done before 8. Something that I didn't know as soon as I moved here, but I learned pretty quickly, is that there is sort of this quiet time. And after 10 o'clock usually is when it would be, or maybe 11 on the weekends. But after this time, you can't do laundry, you should not have your TV too loud, you should just be really respectful of your neighbors, especially if you're living in an apartment complex, something like that. And we actually have like a rule sheet for this apartment, and on there it says that you have to be quiet past 10 p.m. And you're also not allowed to do those kind of things on Sundays. So you're not allowed to do any housework, like you can't like build something into the wall, or you can't mow the lawn on Sundays, things like that that would be disruptive on the quiet day of Sunday. When you do go shopping in Germany, you will notice that cashiers, first of all, the cashiers get to sit down, which is so awesome. I used to be a cashier at a grocery store and I always had to sit on my feet all day, and I am so jealous of all the German cashiers that get to just sit down while they're doing their job. And they also won't bag your groceries for you. So this is always really stressful for me going to the grocery store. I'm like, got my bags ready, I'm like waiting there, and you just have to be fast and just throw things in your bag because they're just scanning it and then putting it on a side little counter, and you have to grab it and throw it in your bags. So it's always pretty stressful. Another thing that was a shock to me, but wouldn't be to Americans, for example, is that alcohol is available in the grocery stores. So as a Canadian, we have special stores, liquor stores, that are either from the government or privately owned, and you can't go in them until you're 19 years old, or 18 in some parts of Canada. And it was so shocking to me to just see all the alcohol in the stores. And of course I've seen this in America as well, but what was more shocking here is that you can actually buy beer and wine from when you're 16 years old, and then once you turn 18 you're allowed to buy like hard liquors and spirits and stuff like that. So that's definitely very different. Along that same line, buying drinks, like soft drinks, pop is what I would call it, but stuff like limo, as the Germans would say, is really inexpensive in stores. So you can buy like a 1.5 liter bottle for 35 cents of off-brand Coke. It's super inexpensive. then you go into a restaurant and buying a drink is really expensive. It can be anywhere between €2 and €3 for a glass of Coke, when you could buy a whole bottle for 35 cents at the store. And this difference is really, really weird to me. And also the sizes are really small in the restaurants. I'm not really sure why it's like this, but it's just something I've noticed, and it's really frustrating for me because I'm used to, you know, you pay like $2 or whatever for your drink and then you get refills, but here they don't do that. And also with getting water in restaurants, I used to always get water in restaurants just because I wasn't a huge pop drinker, so I would always drink just plain water, but you can't get that here. I mean, in some places it's okay to ask for tap water, but it's still considered a little bit rude. And if you get a sparkling water or still water, it will be the same price as getting a beer or getting a Coke anyways. One big thing is that although most Germans do speak English, they usually don't want to. So I think it's really important to learn at least a little bit of German so that you can communicate when you're in a store or when you're, if you need to call someone or something like that. And usually what I've experienced is that people have been really, really nice to me as I've been learning German. Every time I go in a store and I make a mistake, or I'm talking to someone and I make a mistake, they're usually really nice. Sometimes they don't even correct me. Sometimes they do, and they just, they're just really nice about it. And I think that they're just happy to see that you're actually making the effort to learn the language rather than all of a sudden expecting them to speak to you, especially since you're in their own country. It was always something really big for me to learn how to speak German because I knew if I was going to be living here, then I didn't want to force the people who live here to change for me. I was making the active choice to move here, so I wanted to change. So I would say it took me about 6 months to learn how to speak German enough that I could like communicate with people, have small talk, that kind of thing. And then since then I've taken a few courses in German, and I've also just been self-learning. And one thing that is actually kind of funny to me and a little bit stereotypical of Germans, like I think a lot of people think of Germans that they're like these so organized people and everything has a way and a spot and everything like that. And when I first came here, we had a tour about the garbage system, which sounds crazy, but I think I can count 8 different things that the Germans sort their garbage into. So it's really crazy, especially, I mean, in Canada we do like garbage and recycling and organics, I think are our 3. Yeah. And here they do, so Restmüll is like everything mixed together, and then you have bio, organics, and then you have Blech, which is tin, and then you have plastic, obviously plastic, and then you have glass, which will be separated into white glass, green glass, and brown glass, and paper. So you have 8 different things that you have to sort your garbage into, which really, really scared me when I first got here. And on top of sorting those 8 different kinds of garbage, they also do this thing which is called Pfand, which is basically any bottle that has this little sticker on it, you can bring it back to a grocery store or a Getränkmarkt, which is basically just a place where you can buy drinks, and you can get money back for this. So it's very similar to in Canada. We also have this. You can bring back your bottles and you get money back for them, except for the fact that it's in grocery stores. So it's really, really convenient, and almost everybody does it here. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't do it. You can also do it with glass bottles, like beer bottles, but you can bring glass bottles to certain places, and you can also bring a full case of glass bottles to certain grocery stores. Not everyone does it. And then you can also buy something like this, which doesn't have it. So you wouldn't bring this back. You don't get any money for it, but you also don't pay a deposit for it. In Germany, much like any other country in Europe, you have to pay to use the bathrooms in public. So this is pretty normal if you've ever traveled to Europe, but for me as a Canadian, I'm used to being able to go to the bathroom in public. Like, you can go probably in any restaurant and say, "Excuse me, is it okay if I use the bathroom?" And they would say yes, no problem. So I always have to think about it before I leave, like, do I know where a bathroom is? Another thing is that in Germany, cash is still much a bigger thing than it is in Canada. I would say that a lot of people now use cards as well. In Germany, they have something called an EC-Karte, which is kind of like an Interac card or a debit card. And basically, you can use that in more stores, and a lot of places will accept that, and they don't accept credit cards at all. So as a foreigner, you need to carry cash on you mostly because you're not going to have this EC-Karte. And about that, this is one thing I absolutely love about Germany, is that the taxes are included in prices. So what you see on, let's say, a pair of jeans, say they're $19.99, they're going to be $19.99 at the register, which I love, because if you're only carrying cash and you are wondering, okay, how much tax is going to be on top of this and that, you don't have to worry because it's just so easy to add it. Instead of having to think about the taxes always, it's just included for you. I really don't know why Canada doesn't do this. It makes no sense to me. Every time I go back, I'm like, oh yeah, this again. One really funny thing is that when I first moved here, I actually moved to an international community, and I was living with people from all over the world, also some Canadians and some Americans. And whenever we would go out to eat at a restaurant, we would always be the loudest people, and everyone would just be staring at us and looking at us. And it's because Germans are generally quiet in public, especially in a restaurant situation or something like that. It would generally be fairly quiet. I definitely notice it when I'm out with German people, or if I'm out with Americans, the difference in how many people look at us. Now, one misconception about Germany that I hear all the time and from my friends at home and everything is, oh, it must be so cool to drive on the Autobahn. There's no speed limits and like all this stuff. Everyone just hears about the Autobahn. So Autobahn in German actually just means highway, and it's basically all the highways running throughout Germany are Autobahns. And everyone knows this about Germany, that the Autobahn has no speed limits, but actually that's not 100% true. I drive on the Autobahn almost every day, and there are speed limits. Speed limits are definitely higher than in Canada, like usually around 120 kilometers an hour. But there are parts that have no speed limits. So sometimes you'll go through a spot where it's like 120, and then you'll see another sign and it will just be 2 lines. I'll insert a picture, and that's how you know there's no speed limit anymore. And until there's another posted speed, you can go as fast as you want. Okay, the water in Germany is really different than in Canada, and it's something I actually have arguments with my boyfriend about this all the time, because he thinks the German water is better and I think Canadian water is better. So for reference, I'm in Bavaria, and the water here is really, really hard and calcy. So there's this, like, I think it's calcium something in the water that gives this kind of like white cast to it, and it also can ruin things like a kettle. Okay, so I actually just boiled water, so this is fairly clean, but if I show you the top, you should be able to see some of that like white cast in there. That is the calc that is actually sticking to this, and it gets to a point where you need to like clean it with vinegar, or they have special cleaners. But where I'm from in Canada, we clean our water with chlorine, and so I've always been used to having the chlorine taste in my water, and weirdly I actually love it. And so adjusting to the water here was definitely really, really hard for me, and it also changes the texture of your hair. A lot of people will complain about having really dry hair or dry skin, things like that. Another thing that I have become accustomed to in Germany is that if I'm going out to eat fast food, my first choice will be döner, which is basically, I think it's like a Turkish food. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it could be like turkey meat with like different sauces, kind of like a falafel, I guess. And it's really, really good. And that's what I always think about to go get for fast food, rather than if I was at home, I might think about going like to get a burger or something like that. Here, I always think about eating Döner. I don't know if that's true for all Germans, if that's their like perfect fast food, but for me, I definitely changed since I came here because it's also really cheap. It's only like, I don't know, maybe €4 for the whole sandwich, and it's really big in a lot of food. So that's what I find myself eating a lot when I go out. Okay everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you would be interested in me making a video about how I learned how to speak German and talking about the different tools I use and stuff like that. And I'll see you guys next time.